Imagine a boat engine so rare, collectors argue if it ever existed, or if it was just a fever dream powered by gasoline. These 15 outboards are the stuff of nautical legend. From pint-sized 3-horsepower relics to 600-plus HP monsters that could tow a small planet, they're as rare as they are ridiculous. One or two might have lived in your granddad's shed, but only under lock, key, and divine protection. And the last engine. Let's just say if a Corvette and a speedboat had a baby, this would be it. Stick around, because boating history's best-kept secrets are about to resurface. If outboard motors had a golden retriever personality, the 1953 Evinrude Fleet Twin 7.5 HP would be wagging its propeller right now. Friendly, reliable, and always eager to please, this engine became a legend for one simple reason: it just worked. Evinrude nailed the balance between power and portability. The 7.5 horsepower gave casual boaters enough oomph to zip across the lake without rattling their bones or spilling their coffee. It had smooth operation, a distinctive purr, and styling that made it look like it had just stepped out of a 50s diner, chrome accents included. This motor wasn't about flash, it was about weekends at the cabin, teaching your kid to fish, and hauling gear without a single backfire. It came with innovations like improved recoil starters and easy-to-access maintenance points, features that made it feel like the outboard version of a friendly neighbor who always brings the right tool. These days, spotting a Fleet Twin in good condition is like finding a jukebox that still plays. Pure Americana, perfectly preserved. And when it starts on the first pull, that's not just engineering, that's Evinrude magic. No frills, no drama, just clean design, dependable power, and memories built one ripple at a time. Like what you're seeing? Hit that thumbs up and join us for more vintage horsepower history. Let's take it all the way back. 1921, baby. The year Evinrude came back swinging with the Elto 3-horsepower twin, and pretty much said, hey, who's ready to ditch paddles forever? ELTO stood for Evinrude Light Twin Outboard, and light it was, especially compared to the back-breaking anchors people used to call motors. This little guy weighed just 47 pounds, thanks to its revolutionary use of aluminium, which at the time was about as space-age as it got. We're talking about an engine that made people look at a canoe and think, you know what? I'm gonna fly. The Elto 3 HP twin was nimble, reliable, and quiet enough that you could sneak up on fish, or your in-laws at the lake. It sparked the rise of portable everyday outboards and helped kick off America's post-war boating boom. Think of it as the Model T of outboards. Simple, dependable, and suddenly everyone had one. Today it's a crown jewel among collectors, not just for its rarity, but for its legacy. If you find one that still runs, give it a salute. This little twin didn't just power boats, it powered a boating revolution. And it did it while weighing less than your weekend cooler. The 1950s, a time when Elvis was king, cars had more chrome than sense, and even outboard motors tried to look like they belonged in a sci-fi comic book. Enter the Oliver Outboard. After ChrisCraft waved the white flag on outboard production, the Oliver Corporation scooped up their designs like a vintage bargain at a garage sale. What they did next? Pure flair. They slapped bold colors, dramatic lines, and a dose of weird different onto their motors, and suddenly the Oliver was strutting the docks like it owned the marina. These weren't mass-market monsters. Nope, these were the stylish underdogs, less horsepower, more attitude. And if you're wondering why your granddad never had one, it's because these engines were sold under both the Oliver and Wizard names, so depending on where you shopped, your outboard either sounded like a family man or a Hogwarts graduate. Today, finding an Oliver in good shape is like finding a jukebox that still plays. Nostalgic, rare, and weirdly magical. They might not have set speed records, but they won hearts, and possibly caught a few fish along the way. Stay tuned, because this countdown only gets rarer and wilder from here. Before Champion was sparking up your lawnmower or car engine, they tried their hand at something a little wetter: outboard motors. In the 1930s, the Champion Motor Company thought, why not take our know-how from spark plugs and throw it on a boat? The result? A line of outboards built like mechanical bulldogs, rugged, honest, and ready to work. Champion outboards were never the prom kings of the marina. You weren't going to win races or draw a crowd, but you were going to get home every single time, even if the weather turned and the sandwiches got soggy. These motors were built for the everyman boater, the guy with a tin boat, a cooler full of mystery meat sandwiches, and an undying love for fishing at 5 a.m. Production fizzled out by the early 50s, possibly because Champion realized spark plugs were a much cleaner business than water, gas, and cranky fishermen. Today, finding a Champion outboard is rare enough, but finding one that still runs, that's like discovering a spark plug in Atlantis. They didn't change the world, but they sure powered a simpler, scrappier slice of it. Let's keep that nostalgia rolling. We're just getting started. Ah yes, the Water Witch, the outboard motor that sounds like it should have come with a broomstick and a cauldron. But nope, this quirky piece of boating history came straight out of the Sears catalogue, courtesy of the Kissel Motor Car Company. Back in the day, if you couldn't make it to a dealership, or just preferred your boat parts between a set of bed sheets and a lawnmower, you flipped open the Sears Roebuck & Co. catalogue and ordered yourself a Water Witch. It was simple, affordable, and delivered straight to your door. Amazon Prime, eat your heart out. Was it fast? No. Was it stylish? Let's just say it had a face only a fisherman could love, but it got the job done, most of the time. These motors were the embodiment of no-frills boating. They buzzed, sputtered, and occasionally roared to life when the stars aligned. Today, finding a Water Witch that still runs is like unearthing a vintage cooler with your grandpa's name still carved in it. It's rare, beautiful in a weird way, and it tells a story. And hey, bonus points if it still has that old Sears shipping tag on it. That's collector's catnip right there. If Apple had existed in 1928, Steve Jobs would have probably rolled up to the lake with a Gaier 3 horsepower strapped to the back of his rowboat. Sleek, compact, and practically whispering, "Look at me," this engine was the luxury gadget of its time. Gaier outboards weren't built for the masses. They were precision crafted, polished to a shine, and came with the kind of high-end finishes you'd expect on a vintage Cadillac. Nickel-plated hardware? Check. Impossibly smooth casings? Absolutely. It was the kind of motor you bought not just to fish, but to flex. The 3 HP model was the crown jewel, light enough to carry, strong enough to cruise, and quiet enough not to scare off the fish or the neighbors. Gaier knew they had something special, but like many greats, they faded before the world was truly ready. Today, spotting one at a vintage marine show is like seeing a tuxedo at a tailgate, elegant, refined, and undeniably out of place in the best possible way. And if it still runs, that's not just nostalgia, that's mechanical poetry in motion. This isn't just an engine, it's a statement piece with a propeller. Now this one, it's not just an outboard, it's a rocket with a propeller. The Johnson XR55 Racer wasn't built to putt around the lake or tow the kids on an inner tube. This beast was made for one thing: speed. And maybe terrifying everyone within earshot. With a horizontally opposed 4-cylinder setup that looked like it belonged on a fighter plane, the XR55 roared rather than purred. It didn't hum, it howled. It was rare then, and it's borderline mythical now. You won't find it at your local marina, unless your marina hosts offshore drag races. This engine was built for racers who wanted to break water, not just cruise over it. It was powerful, experimental, and about as subtle as a fireworks factory. And the styling? Sleek, sharp, and aggressive. Think James Bond villain meets NASCAR. Collectors speak of it in hushed tones, like it's the marine version of Excalibur. It's not just rare, it's legendary, and if you ever see one in action, count yourself lucky. You've witnessed a unicorn. That sounds like a Harley with an anger issue. Seriously, if Batman had a bass boat, this is what he'd bolt to the back. Also, subscribe now so you never miss the next hidden gem from America's boating past. If outboards were school kids, the Gale Buccaneer would be the quiet, dependable one who never missed a day, didn't talk much, but always got straight A's. Built by Gale Products, a division of OMC, these motors weren't out there trying to win beauty contests or break speed records. They were built to do one thing: work, and keep working, rain or shine, lake or river, sober or slightly buzzed uncle at the tiller. Affordable and easy to fix with a wrench, some duct tape, and maybe a hopeful prayer, the Buccaneers were the go-to choice for families on a budget. It didn't matter if your boat was a hand-me-down with peeling paint. If it had a Gale on the back, you were golden. They weren't flashy, which is probably why they're so rare today. Most were used hard, stored in barns, and eventually left to rust in peace. Finding one now in mint condition, that's like finding an unopened bottle of soda from 1955. Still fizzy, still perfect, and weirdly emotional. Collectors love them because they represent the heart of American boating. Simple, strong, and always ready for the weekend. No frills, no fuss, just pure outboard grit. When you hear ChrisCraft, you probably picture polished mahogany, white leather seats, and martinis at sunset, not an outboard motor. But surprise! In the 1950s, the kings of wooden boat glam dropped the ChrisCraft Commander, and it was just as stylish as their iconic runabouts, only smaller and with way more attitude. The Commander wasn't about speed, it was about style. Think of it as the boating world's equivalent of a vintage Rolls-Royce scooter. With its elegant curves, gleaming chrome accents, and signature branding, it turned heads at every boat ramp, especially from jealous fishermen with less fashionable motors. Under the hood, a respectable 10 horsepower, not exactly earth-shattering, but enough to get you where you needed to go, looking fabulous the whole way. It wasn't meant to win races, it was meant to match your boat's paint job and make your neighbors whisper, okay, that's a vibe. Today, spotting a Commander in the wild is like finding a diamond in a drawer full of spark plugs. It's a collector's dream, a piece of design history, and proof that even outboards can have a little red carpet flair. Let's be honest, this engine didn't push water, it glided through it. Back in 1947, if your outboard engine could shift into reverse without you physically turning it around, or if it had a twist grip throttle instead of a lever that felt like it belonged on a tractor, you were basically boating in the future. Enter the Scott Atwater 7.5 horsepower, the outboard that brought next-gen tech to your average Joe's aluminium boat. This wasn't just an engine, it was a revolution. Forward neutral reverse gear selection in the 40s. That was the marine equivalent of discovering sliced bread had Wi-Fi. The twist grip throttle made handling smooth and intuitive, like riding a motorcycle on water without the helmet hair. Scott Atwater didn't have the name recognition of Johnson or Evinrude, but boy did they throw down a challenge. Their engines were slick, stylish, and a joy to operate, until the company eventually fizzled out in the corporate chaos of the late 50s. But the 7.5 HP model, that one stuck. Collectors still seek it out, not just for its performance, but for what it represents. A time when outboard companies dared to innovate and actually made boating simpler, not more complicated. It didn't just push boats, it pushed boundaries, and it looked good doing it. If boating had a golden age, the 1950s Johnson Seahorse was its crown jewel. These outboards weren't just motors, they were memories on a stick. Every fishing trip, lake day, and summer spent at the cabin had one humming quietly at the stern, carrying kids, coolers, and maybe a few sunburnt dads who swore they didn't need sunscreen. The Seahorse was a true workhorse, reliable, forgiving, and built like a tank in a tuxedo. It came in a range of horsepower, from peppy 5s to zippy 35s, and was known for its clean design, user-friendly operation, and an uncanny ability to just keep going. It wasn't unusual for these engines to outlive the boat they were mounted on. But now, good luck finding one in mint condition. Most have been run into the ground, painted over, or left to rust in Grandpa's shed. The few that remain, collector gold. They don't just command cash, they tug on the heartstrings. Restoring one isn't just about the motor, it's about reviving a piece of American summers gone by. Because face it, once you've heard a seahorse purring at dawn across glassy water, it never really leaves you. Yes, you read that right. The National Pressure Cooker Company once made outboard motors, because nothing says boating like steaming vegetables. But here's the twist, they were really good at it. Enter the Martin Outboard, an engine so well built, it felt like it should have come with a warranty for life and a complimentary meatloaf. Produced between 1946 and 1954, these motors were over-engineered in all the best ways. The Martin 60 and Martin 200 were especially beloved for their sleek looks, smooth performance, and just the right amount of mechanical overkill. They ran like sewing machines, if sewing machines had a growl and could push a fishing boat at 20 knots. They weren't cheap, and they never went fully mainstream, but their quality turned them into cult classics. Today they are among the most collectible outboards in the vintage world, and yes, they still get the occasional double take. Wait, the pressure cooker people made this? Absolutely, and they nailed it. So while their culinary roots might make you laugh, the Martin Outboards, they're no joke. Just proof that sometimes the best engines come from the most unexpected companies. Drop a comment below, tell us which engine so far made your jaw drop or sparked a memory. Before space missions and sci-fi epics made Neptune sound cosmic, it was the name on one of the toughest little outboards America ever built. Crafted by Muncie Gearworks, the Neptune Outboard was a blue-collar beast of the 1930s, simple, scrappy, and absolutely unkillable. Their crown jewel, the Mighty Might series. Don't let the name fool you, these motors were pint-sized powerhouses, light enough to carry under one arm and tough enough to run forever on the other. Whether you were navigating a duck marsh or a fishing hole 3 towns over, a Neptune was your no-frills ticket to get there and back, no towboat required. They were rugged, charming, and wildly overbuilt for their size. Today, that makes them collector catnip. You'll still spot them on eBay and Craigslist, but be ready to fork over some serious coin. These little guys are now treated like maritime antiques, complete with price tags that say, "Hope you brought your retirement fund." Neptunes represent a slice of Americana that refuses to rust quietly. They weren't flashy, they weren't fast, but boy did they last, and that's why collectors still chase these mighty mites like their treasure chests with spark plugs. The Johnson Big Twin, the outboard that looked at 1920s boating and said, "Hold ma gas can." In 1926, this beast roared onto the scene with a whopping 6 horsepower, which back then might as well have been a rocket booster. It was the first outboard engine powerful enough to plane a boat, and it didn't just cruise, it flew across the water, clocking over 23 miles per hour. Speed freaks of the Jazz Age rejoice. And the best part, it was made almost entirely from aluminium, making it light, fast, and surprisingly stylish, like the Gatsby of gas-powered machines. With its twin-cylinder setup and revolutionary lightweight build, the Big Twin wasn't just about power, it was about changing the entire game. This engine turned weekend fishermen into speed demons and laid the foundation for performance outboards as we know them. And let's be real, any engine that could make a wooden boat lift and glide back then deserves a slow clap today. Collectors hunt for these like Indiana Jones looking for lost relics, and when they find one, it's not just a motor, it's a mechanical time machine. Because in 1926, the Big Twin wasn't just big, it was revolutionary. Behold the 7 Marine 627, the outboard engine that doesn't purr, it growls like a caffeinated grizzly bear. Born from a collaboration between 7 Marine and GM, this Titan boasts a 6.2-liter supercharged V8, the same power plant you'd find in a Cadillac CTS-V. That's right, someone looked at a luxury sports car and said, let's bolt that to a boat. And they did. The result? 627 horsepower of unfiltered aquatic chaos. This wasn't an outboard made for trolling at sunset. It was made for dominating. It could push a 40-foot center console like it was a kayak and leave jet skiers wondering what just passed them like a blur in a sea storm. It was expensive, eye-wateringly so, but that only made it rarer. And now it's discontinued. No more production, no factory fresh replacements. Owners treat these things like sacred relics, pampered, polished, and never, ever loaned to friends. The 7 Marine 627 isn't just rare. It's a mechanical flex. It's the final boss of outboards, the you wouldn't dare of marine motors. And if you ever see 3 of them mounted on one transom, just salute and get out of the way. Now, if this revved your nostalgia engine, like, subscribe, and share with a fellow vintage boat lover.